Thank you so much for joining us at the 21st Tallgrass Festival here in Wichita, Kansas, which I do believe by your choice of clothing today, you're very familiar with Wichita. Your project was Go Baby Go. Would you please tell the viewing audience a little bit about the piece?
Go Baby Go is a project, I believe it's a national organization, but it's a group at Wichita State that pairs together engineering students with physical therapy students, and they take one of those little cars you can buy that a child can sit in and drive, and they modify it to a child with a special mobility need, whatever that might be, on a case-by-case basis, and they spend the whole semester putting that car together and modifying it and designing it, and then deliver it to the child at the end of the semester.
And so with this program, of course, you said the engineering students, which I'm the child of an electrical engineer. So I know he's very linear, this is how things have to go. But then they're having to adapt for the case-by-case needs of a specific child, whether it's a place to put feet to hold them secure, or wider pedals, or instead of pedals having hand controls like a natural or a full-size adult vehicle would be done for any adult driving. How do those students interact with each other to accomplish?
That was kind of the interesting part, is there are two student groups that don't often cross paths. They're in separate buildings, they're separate areas of study. And I guess just the way that the engineers are very problem solving, like what's the issue we need to solve, and we'll build something to overcome that. And I guess the physical therapy students were the ones that were sort of like, this is the issue we're working with, with the particular child, Anahi, that they built the car for. She had spina bifida, so she has trouble keeping her legs straight. So she can stand and prop herself up on things, but doesn't have full mobility in her feet. And so they needed to modify it so they could control it with her arms and be able to steer and sort of use the ignition at the same time. So it was just interesting to see how those two groups interacted.
And then out of a program like this that the students participate in, what directions does that help guide them to for their future? So for engineering, do they go into an automotive, or do some of them pick up that, hey, I could go into a field and adapt for?
Right. Several of the physical therapy students that were in it were interested in pediatrics. So this was an opportunity to sort of interact with children, but have like a goal to overcome, not just, I don't know, you could see what the issue is that they needed help with, and create this thing for them to sort of give them the ability to keep up with their brothers and sisters or their friends. For the engineers, I think it's just, so many students want to be a part of something to make the world a better place. A lot of these students want to work at NASA or have these big dreams, but this was sort of an opportunity they have to change a child's life, better the world around them right now while they're in school. And so I think the engineering students enjoy solving a problem like that, if that makes sense.
It does. And I did like how in the piece, one of the comments was that this was so that she could keep up with her siblings. And of course, I'm thinking game of chase, or, my brain, the way it works, attach a hockey stick and she can play soccer or a version of polo with them, or
it doesn't say it explicitly in the video, but Anahi was one of four and one of a set of triplets, identical triplets.
Oh, wow.
So all the siblings were right around the same age, but she was the only one born with spina bifida. So this was very much, and it's not included. They sent months afterwards. They sent me just some photos and video of her actually driving the car at her house, and was able to sort of chase her siblings around and keep up in a way that she wasn't able to previously. So.
Fantastic. And how did Wichita State get involved with this program?
It's Go Baby Go is a national organization that has been going on for some time. So I think it started at a smaller university on the East Coast and has sort of spread to different schools. So it's sort of like an overarching brand. I don't know when it started at Wichita State off the top of my head. I know they're partnered locally with Rainbows United, and they're the ones that sort of they bring the children to the group, and each group is assigned a child, so they know what they're supposed to do. But off the top of my head, I don't know when it started.
That's okay. It is. I did some research. It is national. I'm from the Dallas area.
Okay.
And one of the UT, I don't remember if it was UTD or UT Arlington or UT Austin. One of the UT campuses I know is involved. University of Texas.
Yeah.
I know one of them is involved with it. Now, for the students, the day they get to deliver this, what is that energy like that day?
It's awesome. It's like nothing you'll see. I think it's open to the public, so if anybody ever gets the chance. I first heard about this, so I used to work locally for I worked for Cake News locally. I was a photographer, and I got sent to one of these on a Saturday, one of these delivery days, and it's just an awesome experience, just a lot of emotion from the group has spent months and months, largely after work, after school, after class. They come at like 6 or 7 in the evening, once or twice a week, and work for 2 or 3 hours all semester. So, and they do meet the child at the beginning, and they get some measurements, and they sort of talk out the need that they need to accommodate, I guess. But
because this is on top of their full semester workload.
Right. Yep. This is it's a class, but it is a sort of like extracurricular project. It's not a job. It's not there's no money. There's probably some class credit, but it's all largely on their own time.
And this, of course, is just one of the programs at Wichita State. What are some of the other programs that are unique like this, that if someone was looking where they want to go to school, what are some of the other programs that might be of interest?
There's all kinds of stuff. I mean, just off the top of my head, we just have, if there's somebody who's interested in engineering, we have just state-of-the-art engineering buildings and equipment. We have national, global organizations like Airbus on campus that you can interact with. Physical therapy students, you can work in the athletic department and have real world experience with something like sports therapy. For me, when I was a student, I worked for the student newspaper, the Sunflower. So I got to cover things like March Madness. I got published in the Eagle. I got picked up by the Associated Press and published all over the world. So and being in a city our size like Wichita, you have maybe some connections to organizations that you wouldn't have in maybe a smaller town. So I think there's a lot of benefit. You need to be more specific.
Yeah. And no, this is exactly. And Wichita is kind of like a big small town.
Yeah, it really is.
It's got the small town feel, but it has come so far and is so advanced in what it can offer. But then there's still a downtown area and a town square and some of the architecture out here. It's that small town, big town.
And I think one of the most important parts of like going to college and learning a skill and studying something you want to do for the rest of your life is obviously a big part of that. But another huge part is like meeting your classmates who will help you get jobs, or meeting local professionals that can steer you in the right direction or recommend you for jobs or hire you. And I think being in a big city like ours, you just have the opportunity to make those connections maybe a little better than maybe a smaller school environment. I got my job because I covered my first job out of college at Cake, because I covered basketball games, and I interacted with the sports director at Cake. And when that job opened up, he was like, "Oh, sure, I'll talk to the news director." So.
And your original, and you're very passionate about, is still photography. I fully admit I was doing research on the computer. I came across, I believe it was your Instagram account, and there are some just amazing photos out in nature, and they're just,
Thank you.
I was like, I want to go and be there right now. So
Yeah.
just stunning. There was some fall foliage. So of course in Texas we have green, brown, dead all
Yeah.
within like 24 hours. But once you come up a little bit north here into the Midwest, you get some of that fall foliage or other places. So you do capture that feeling of a colder, cooler day in your photos, which was amazing. Of course, with Go Baby Go, this is actually a film project. So it's a movie, it's a short. How did you do the transition with working from still to capture just one moment to flowing to capture several moments to tell a story?
So I started wanting to be a still photographer. That's always been my passion, I guess. But I learned pretty quickly when I was coming through school that you probably needed more than one skill. Just unfortunately the way the industry is, there's just not a lot of solely still photographer jobs available. So I just wanted to be multi-skilled, I guess. So I took video classes, and I sort of learned how to do that and did some video projects. I think they kind of work hand in hand, because you start to see like detail shots, and I think if you can take a still photo that tells your entire story in that photo alone, it rarely comes along, but when it does, like, that's just as valuable as me writing 1,000 words about it or making a 4-minute video about it. And I guess just translating that to the detail shots or the emotion of like the delivery day with the mom and the parents and the students finally seeing the fruition of their project, and then there's some basic stuff like just framing and composition and things like that of your shot. I think translate back and forth from still photography, but does that answer your question?
It does. And for someone who's thinking about maybe getting into photography or filming, I mean, you of course mentioned composition. What is one of the best pieces of advice for, someone looking at and having an interest in photography?
I guess, put yourself in places where you're meeting area professionals. I got to interact with people from the Eagle. I interned at the Wichita Eagle, so I got to meet those people and sort of be mentored by the people there and learn new things. I took a class with still photography class. To try and say this without sounding pretentious, it was below probably the skill level I was at the time, but it was taught by a local guy that I have a ton of respect for, so I just wanted to be near him and learn from him, even though like it was photography 101 or something, like something I had pretty much already taken at community college before. But just to be able to interact with those people, because those people will hopefully teach you things you never knew, but they'll also like point you in the direction for jobs, and even just learning how to take constructive criticism. That's something I noticed pretty quickly with some students around me. Is sometimes people are going to be really honest with you, and if you it's going to sting, but if you don't learn from that, then you're probably not going to learn and get better. And just that photographer I was talking about told me one of my projects sucked, and that was hard. And I was like, oh, but he's not totally wrong. And I should take what he said and get better if I want to be more like him. So.
And you're right. It is hard when someone says something to be able to say, wait a minute, this person's coming from a place of caring and wanting me to do better, versus this person's just being mean to be mean. And you have to differentiate those.
Yeah, there's a big difference. And sometimes it sounds really mean, just depending on the person's personality. But if they're taking an interest in you at all, they probably think you have something, you probably have a skill that you can develop. So I guess just being around those people and I was surrounded, the years I was in school, I was surrounded by other awesome photographers that we built off each other, and we could be honest with each other, and we could talk ideas out with each other, and just having that, just surrounding yourself with, I guess, like-minded people who are also learning similar things you want to learn. It translates to video too. People that want to, get some friends together and make a project. Like, when I was at Cake, there's a lot of downtime in between stories, and just all the other photographers sitting around like, hey, how would you do this if you were gonna shoot something like this? Or, just to be able to talk things through with other peers, I think is incredibly valuable.
And will you be doing more of these short films for yourself, for the school?
So I do smaller versions of our office calls them shock docs. And I do about one a month on a smaller scale. This one was, it was such a good story that I pitched this to my boss and was like, hey, what if instead of turning around a story in a month, I spent 4 months following these students and put that together. And they loved the idea. They know about the class and the project and loved it. And I'm just grateful that they gave me that sort of flexibility. So not long story short, I'd love to I'd love to do another semester long project where I follow a group of students doing something. I haven't quite found it yet, but I would love to do another long form story like that.
And if you could go anywhere in the world, money wasn't an object, to take photographs, because of course you seem to be more of the outdoor world rather than people. I like to take architecture photos myself. I'm a person with a camera is what I am. That's my level, and I'm happy there. I do it for me. But you have some amazing work. If you could go anywhere, any time of the year, where would that place be and when?
That's a tough question. I've mostly traveled around the United States. My wife and I love going to national parks and just picking one and making that the goal to go to. 2 years ago, we went to Zion National Park in Utah, which is just an awesome part of the country. Last summer, we went to Maine and Arcadia National Park, which was a huge bucket list item. We don't really have the next one yet, but if it were anywhere in the world, I'd love to go to Europe and I'm a huge Beatles fan, so I'd love to go do all the Abbey Road and do all of those stops. Italy sounds awesome. Or Spain, one of those historic, beautiful cities. Something like that would be great. New Zealand, I hear, is really pretty. Something like that. I don't know. We haven't traveled globally very much. Sorry to say.
Well, and it's been kind of a challenge the last few years. There's a little more freedom to do that again now. And for anyone who wants to follow you, find out more about Go Baby or Wichita State, what is the best way to connect?
You can. The office I work for, all our social media is Wichita State Admissions. I specifically work for the admissions office. My personal pages. I'm most active on Instagram. I'm just at Crowby, Crowby. You can find me on there. I thought I did think of something for your last question. Now, this month, my wife and I are going to New Mexico for the Hot Air Balloon Festival they have every year. And not only are we doing that, but on that Saturday, there's a solar eclipse. So it's this sort of once in a lifetime, convalescing of things. So that's it's a big thing I'm looking forward to.
Well, I wish you great weather and safe travels and clear skies for that trip.
Thank you.
And I thank you for your time today.
Yeah,
and
thanks for
please
having
enjoy
me.
the festival.
Yeah.